Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk in, we the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've dime. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get off my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, know it's a KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Triple hey for everybody out there. Ed, can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. It's terrible that I have to ask that, but I'm doing 40 million things at once before we get ready for the show. So hit you with the triple hey. My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. Not a lot going on in Lobo land, so we'll talk about what we can. But before I get to my fellow co-host who joins me on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays now, no show on Wednesday, obviously. I want to thank those that make this show possible or help us out. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Tim Baca Sr., Tim Baca Jr. over at Hydro Bar, Affordable Service, Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. Affordable Service has been in business in Albuquerque since 1986, and it is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff and commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. Sorry. Oh, man. Perfect timing to hack up along. 4:30 today, as usual. Our regular Monday panel guest lineup, 4:30, Ned James, former UNM quarterback, very opinionated, member of Lobo Radio Network, not strictly UNM football, college football, NFL questions for him. See what he has to say. 5 o'clock, Ben Wysong. I've efforted Jeff Symbieta. This is the busiest week of the year for him. He said he had something going on at 4. If he can get back to me in the next hour, we will have him on. Again, your executive director of the New Mexico Bowl. Busy week for him. Asked him to come on Friday and realized that they have the pep rally at 4 o'clock in Old Town, so he can't do Friday. But at least he got back to me because he's a busy man this week. So hopefully he can join us and we'll have him in over the phone call. At least if we can give him 10 minutes, get his thoughts on Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette, taking on TCU Saturday, 12:15 kickoff at University Stadium. So again, Nen James, 4:30, Ben Wysong, 5 o'clock. And I will go to my resident co-host here, Lobo Fan since 1970, the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, Merry Christmas. How you doing?
Good, Ryan. Doing good. Just a lot of my granddaughter's over here now watching some Christmas stuff on Disney Junior. So I think that with your own son, Christmas is a lot different through their eyes and a lot of different memories. She made it. We were watching the Santa Claus with her on Saturday and Home Alone, and watch Grandpa, watch. You got to watch this. And we've seen it a million times, but I think it becomes different when you've got a granddaughter or a son, a young son, the way you do. So great time of year to have a granddaughter or son, a young son like you do. So yeah, just enjoying her.
Mine's Rain Man, as I always say. I don't like to be that dad that's, hey, my kid's the smartest. My kid scares me with how smart he is. My mom didn't know what to get him for Christmas, so they're going Christmas shopping on Thursday. That's where my 7-year-old is at, which I think is scary as all hell. So anyway,
that's funny.
No kidding. Yeah. So he'll get another zillion Legos. Again, feel free to comment, Twitter, YouTube. Ice Baby, stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Merry Christmas, Pit Press, Ice Baby. We appreciate it. Why is it just ice this morning? Are you doing like the Diddy thing or the Prince thing where you just I don't know, or somebody just dropping the not Puff Daddy? That's not where I'm just saying how he dropped Puff Daddy and he went to Diddy and P Diddy. I didn't mean anything. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up. All right, we don't have much time.
That Ice Baby, though, whenever you start singing that, and I see him in those parachute pants in my mind, and then that hairdo, it brings back a lot of memories when you start singing that. And Ice is one of our more frequent listeners and commenters, and we appreciate that. But every time you bust that out, Ryan, it brings out that hairdo that Robbie Van Winkle, what's his name? I can't remember. Robbie something.
It's Robert Van Winkle.
Yes, and that brings back those parachute pants, man. And then he always was pretty styling with that. Anytime he did any kind of performance. But yeah, every time you bust that out, I'm kind of laughing in my mind, thinking about how long ago that was and how old I really am. But that's all right.
I mean, I'm old enough to know that. And if you ever, I don't know because I like the history of things. If you've never seen Jim Carrey on In Living Color impersonating him.
Oh, I didn't see that, and I'm going to YouTube that.
YouTube it.
Because you said that, because Jim Carrey, back in the day, that show Living Color was unbelievably funny. It really was.
No, and Living Color was ahead of its time. I'm trying to think of the handicap guy. Oh, it's gonna blow my mind. Couldn't get away with that today. I was talking to somebody and telling them you need to watch Tropic Thunder because it's the Blazing Saddles of our generation. All right, that's enough of. I was probably telling that to you, Ed. All right, I am gonna go. I'll start here. Again, feel free to comment, X, Twitter, go to our website, go to our page. Oh, hey, Rick, and gosh darn it, I forgot to bring it up. Sound like Bronco Mendenhall. Gosh darn it. Forgot to bring up Rick Thompson had an interview with Coach Bob DeBess, the former offensive coordinator under Bob Davie. I guess he has a lot of great things to say about Jason Eck. That's it's a podcast. Go to our website, anywhere you can find a podcast, Spotify, Google. I don't listen to podcasts. I listen to Jeff and JJ and Jim Rome, and I watch Jim Rome on Samsung TV Plus because he's on Fast Networks. That's a different topic for a different time. So news today: Donovan Dent was named Mountain West Player of the Week after his 40 burger against VCU, where he scored half the team's points. I don't know if he's going to necessarily have that in him to do it every night. Obviously. 14 of 26, 50% from 3, 10 of 11 from the free throw line, which I love, which is muy importante. I think it's a big honor, and it still continues to show what Rick Pitino and this team does. I mean, Ed, I'm going to you on this one first because I'm not disrespecting the point guards that I've seen in the past. I got to throw Darius Gary out there, Mark Walters. You're going to bring up Phil Smith. I think Hunter Green was a point guard. He was a guard. Forward. Okay. I mean, he's going to be probably up there. Kendall Williams. He's probably going to be up there as one of the best, if not best, point guard in Lobo history. I don't know why I'm going or where I'm going with that, but given everything that's transpired and happened in Lobo land over the last month since the plane fight, pretty cool honor. Your thoughts?
I'm going to bring up some, Lobo point guards of the past, and some of them you never saw them play. So and we had some of them on our Lobo Legend series: Petey Gibson, the late Kelvin Scarborough, the late Daryl McGee, the late Greg Brown. Hard to believe that they're all passed away. You mentioned Darius Gary.
And I know I always say I never mean to interrupt you. I mean no disrespect for those guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that they're all gone. So yeah, I hope I didn't forget anybody. I always forget one. I always go back and think. Yeah, I mentioned Petey, Darius, Phil, Daryl McGee, and Greg Brown. Those guys. Mark Walters was more of a shooting guard at the two guard, and Mark, an alma mater. He's a Highland Hornet, and the guy was an amazing football player. They said he could have been an all-state Lobo tight end. He was very explosive, but more of a two guard than he was a point guard. So I got to say this about Donovan Dent. I think Rick and Jacob and Eric and my son, they broke down one podcast about Lobos and Aggies. And one of the things I think when a great player doesn't play well, and he didn't play well against New Mexico State, it burns inside of you. Believe me, I've seen it. When I had never said I was a great player. I was a decent player in high school, and if I didn't play well, you woke up thinking about that. Remember this too. He has a family. He said that made fun of him about his turnovers. That they won a game. I think they beat UCLA, and they were on his case about his turnovers. So I can only imagine what they were saying about the game against the Aggies. They're probably all over him like, hey man, and they're teasingly saying it, but it gets you. It's your own family saying that. My brother was a really good player at Pius. I always wanted to be as good as him. So if someone said you didn't play well, or someone said my brother didn't play well, me being a young fan back then, I would take the offense to that, even if he didn't play well, because that was my first basketball hero. So I think for him, he had a week to think about it, and he came up short. The other thing is this: remember what Coach Pitino? We asked him about it in the press conference. He was on the bench during crunch time, and Coach Pitino said he's exhausted. So remember, if you're thinking you're the best player, and he is the best player on the team, so you got a week to think about that. And then your family's like, hey, man, Coach had you on the bench, bro. And they were saying things to that effect. Believe me, they were. So it burns inside you. It does. And we know how great of a player he is. So he had a week to think about it, and you saw the performance. I thought the VCU's defensive coverage sometimes wasn't – they let him get in the paint. Once he gets in the paint, forget it. He's either going to get a lob or he's going to the teardrop. He's going to make something happen. Now, they were one of the better defensive teams in the nation that came in with that ranking, and he carved them up. So I think, again, it's a little bit of vengeance for the game that he didn't have against New Mexico State. He's a great player. Great players bounce back. That's what he did. Coach Pitino, he was on the podcast with Jeff Grammer, and he mentioned that he wants Donovan Dent to shoot more threes. He's only shot 19. He says, hey, I feel comfortable with him shooting more. He's only shot 19, and he's got a line drive shot. I wouldn't say it's not a great looking shot, but he's making them. And Coach Pitino said he wants to see him shoot a little bit more of those. We know that he's at his best when he drives to the bucket and makes things happen for other players, drives and kicks out too. Very smart player with the ball. You mentioned those other point guards, and they were smart too. They really were different skill sets. But that's what I think about that. I think he had, again, a week to think about a poor game, and he came out and really they needed that win. We said that. They've got to have it. And it was because of him. Again, Eric brought this up the other night. Nolan didn't get a lot of touches, neither did Appelhans. You got a guy rolling like that, you're not going to get a lot of touches, man. You kind of stand back and you say, the offense was Donovan Dent. He had 40. Hopefully Nolan and Appelhans get looks later on, because that's what he does. He finds players that are open into their strengths and gets them the ball where they need it. But it was a great performance, Ryan. And remember, Kendall went for 42 against Colorado State. Elijah Brown with 41. I remember Kendall's 42 at Colorado State. He was amazing that afternoon. He really was. And Elijah Brown with 41, and then with Donovan with 40 and 5 and rebounds and 4 assists. That was just a tremendous game.
Kendall, I remember where I was. I wasn't at the paper anymore. I think I'd graduated already. I remember I was at the Buffalo Wild Wings on Montgomery. 46 with 10 threes.
Oh, 46.
And yeah, no, I forgot. I thought it was 47. They were 20. UNM was 16th and Colorado State was 22 with Colton Iverson. Kendall went 12 of 16 from the field, 10 of 13 from 3, and 12 of 17 from free throw line. So pretty impressive. Looks like Rick's going to join us here in a second. Get his thoughts. I want to move on to football, and I always forget to use these. Eric made them, and they're great. UNM has an offensive coordinator, and I'm going to do my best Office Space impression here. Richard, how's it going?
Richard.
Happy to join you guys. Merry Christmas to all the listeners and to you gentlemen, and to our new offensive coordinator here.
Rick, I'm going to backtrack and happy Toyota-thon. Your thoughts on Donovan Dent getting player of the week?
Very deserving, probably the top performance of any player in the conference so far as in terms of single game performance. Other players that have been playing well, Degenhart, Neek Clifford had a crazy game where he had like 17 rebounds and almost 20 points. But as far as scoring this many points and really just putting a team on your back and willing them to victory, I don't think we've seen anyone else in the conference do that. And with True Washington out and, CJ Nelson really didn't play much due to foul trouble, Dent really did the main scoring, obviously, shot the ball over 20 times. And then the other two main guys of Amzil and Nelly almost had all the other points, So looking forward, Colorado State coming up. They just beat Nevada. Very tough out. The bench and other key pieces on the Lobos are going to have to contribute. Dent is obviously capable of having these games, thank goodness, but I don't think we can expect that game after game. So I think hopefully Washington will be back at full strength. CJ Nelson, still hasn't played his best basketball in my mind. His shooting, I think, is going to get better. And Atiki has really played valuable minutes, and I think his role is going to grow as a rim runner. And he's, probably, the best post defender if you look at the metrics. So really looking forward to conference play. Utah State with a huge win over St. Mary's last night, a big win for the conference. So probably 4 or 5 teams at the top that we always talk about. And now Colorado State is, maybe making a push here like they always do under Coach Medved. So a lot to look forward to as we get into the meat of conference play.
We'll switch over to football, and then I'll ask you about your podcast. I'm going to use this thing again because I love it. It's going to kill me, but it sounds like somebody farting there at the end. All right, but I like it because it's a good transition. Rick, can you talk about your podcast? And I'm going to butcher the guy's name, and I'm about to butcher the new offensive coordinator's name. It's like Office Space with the Bobs. Not gonna work here anymore.
Yeah, so I was joined by Coach Bob DeBess, who was the offensive coordinator, like you mentioned, under Coach Bob Davie. He was at New Mexico from 2012 to 2017. And as we know, he brought in that triple option attack that became the leading rushing offense in the country after, I think it was 2016 or 2017, around there. Scored over 30 points a game in 2015 and 2016, I believe, when they went to the bowl games. And Coach DeBess really just gave me a breakdown of his over 40 years of coaching. He just retired. He started as a 23-year-old GA and became an assistant coach, and then was an offensive coordinator at Minnesota at the age of 30. So this guy knows more about football than 100 people combined. He's given presentations, to coaches across the country just on the triple option and the schemes that he runs, but he also ran a pass-happy offense when he coached at Purdue as a receiver coach. So this gentleman just had so much experience. He brought it to New Mexico. We saw the results, that was probably the last time the school had any success in the sport. He also knows Coach Jason Eck personally, and he talked about how Coach Eck actually reached out to him before Coach Eck accepted the job and was going through the interview process, and his overall thoughts on Coach Eck and what he's bringing into the school and what Coach DeBest thinks it'll really take to create UNM into a winner. And he thinks there's a bright future for the Lobos. So just a lot of great thoughts. Gives a lot of good thoughts on NIL and the current state of football and, kind of all the things that are swirling around right now. So just a really good outlook. And he said he'd be willing to join us, down the road. And I would really appreciate that. So go check out that full interview. But Ryan, as you're mentioning, what do we know anything about the offense of our new coordinator here and what they ran at Idaho last year?
Well, I know they threw the ball a lot, but what I was able to break down, and I, once again, not going to work here anymore, getting his name wrong. Luke Schleusner,
I'm going with
Schleusner. I mean, no offense. I just suck at pronouncing names. That's why I became a newspaper guy. He's the new OC and quarterback coach. But what I did look up, 2022, when Jason Eck and him started at Idaho, their first year there, they went 7-5, made the first round of the FCS playoffs. 35.9 points per game. 2023, they get to the FCS quarterfinals. 32.3 points a game last year, this past season, 2024. 10-4 FCS quarterfinal against again, they get a pass against Montana State because Montana State's rolling everybody. That's my PC version of that. 32.3 points a game. This last year, they were top 20 in several offensive FCS categories. And I'm going off topic here, not to mention some of the guys that have announced that they're coming back. Richard Pierce, Tavion Combs said he might be coming back. Ryan Davis transferred to Utah. I know I'm going off topic here, but Rick, you brought it up before we went on the show. Very fascinating that the only player that has followed Bronco Mendenhall to Utah State is Javen Jacobs. I don't know if either of you have an opinion of that. Rick, I'll start with you.
I don't really have an opinion on it, but I find it interesting. I thought more players would be getting offers to play at Utah State with Coach Mendenhall. It seems more have gone, I think, to ULM, however you say it, Monroe, and then more have gone to Utah and followed Coach Beck. I think you mentioned Ryan Davis, but the good news for Lobo fans today, I did see what Isaiah Silliman also said he's returning. And then I think the greatest news I saw is a quarterback committing to the program, a freshman, Toa Fave, actually out here from Concord in the Bay Area, played at a high-level school out here. I think it is De La Salle. Looks like a guy that can run, 6'1", 195 he's listed at here. I believe he won 3 state titles, it said. So a guy with a lot of experience. It looks like speed. And we'll try to get those highlights out. But great news, I would say, the past few days with a lot of players returning. Ed, what do you think that says about Coach Eck in his, few days here? He's already got a lot of buy-in, it seems.
I just want to comment, real quick first before I comment on Coach Eck. About Coach Mendenhall, I thought a few more players would go to Utah State. I'm kind of a little surprised about that. I thought, there'd be at least 5 or 6, maybe more. Usually that happens. So I'm a little surprised. But I saw a little bit of tape on that quarterback. I like what I saw. He can run the ball. And somebody asked, can he pass? And then somebody showed the highlights, and he can throw the ball too. Now, we had a quarterback playing at a very high level here, the highest level that we've seen since Donovan Portery, and probably better than Donovan Portery and Devin Dampier. So, hopefully this quarterback can come here and play at that level. And I think, Rick, if you look at Coach Eck, the tweet that he put out there, Lobo fans, I'm recruiting for next year, Lobo up. He's a personable guy. When you see him, you're like, And Ryan, you were at the press conference, and you liked it a lot. You liked the hire. Again, that doesn't win you football games. I understand that it doesn't. Danny was as personable as can be, and Danny Gonzalez last season. If he wins one more game against Utah State, he probably gets an extension here, and it just didn't happen. But the way you, Rick, Bob DeBest is a well-respected coach, well-respected, man. That Daryl Chestnut, who we had on here, the running back when he played here, was very complimentary of Coach DeBest, very complimentary and very respected name. So I think when you get names like that, and Coach DeBest is coached here, and he says things about Jason Eck like that, and again he sold it that press conference. Ryan, you said that you were enthused, and I like what I see. But remember, we had Fernando Lobo on last week, and we didn't get him for a long time. So much has to happen to change the culture of Lobo football. If Coach Eck comes in here and wins 6, 7, 8, they go to bowl games and they don't do anything with the stadium, and the culture doesn't change around, is there going to be development around the stadium, to make it more of a fan friendly, a kid friendly, is a marketing department. And with Fernando Lobo mentioned that, he mentioned that the stadium is definitely on their radar, to spruce it up or do whatever they're going to do. So I think Coach Eck is a winner, man. I do. I'm excited. But of course, me being a Lobo fan since 70, the glass is usually half full, but I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're great when they're not. But I'm excited that he's in town. So, Rick, I think, that's a good question. I think there's going to be more buy-in. Tavion Combs saying he might come back, the Solomon, the offensive lineman, and there'll be more, I think, in the next couple of days. So I think he's going to get more buy-in because he's a seller. You talk to him, if you sit down and talk to him, just think about it. He'd probably sell you quickly about, the opportunities here in New Mexico. So I'm excited about that.
You can check out Rick's podcast on our website at the Pit Press NM, Spotify, anywhere you can find a podcast, Apple Podcasts. What I like, and I'm going to go to this, what I like about Jason Eck is that it's not weird like Bronco. And I'm repeating again, it's hindsight 2020. But just a weird guy. So here's Jason Eck over the weekend or late last week. I don't know. It's great. He's chewing gum.
Lobo Nation, Coach Eck here. Just enjoying this beautiful sunshine here in Albuquerque, walking around campus. Big recruiting weekend here this week. 15 young men in town that are going to be difference makers for the Lobos going forward. Doing a great job recruiting new players, recruiting our own players, getting guys to come out of the portal to stay here. The future is bright in Albuquerque. Can't wait to meet so many of you people throughout this community. Can't wait to next fall to see you guys in the University Stadium. Take care. Lobo up.
Wait, I got to hear it.
Lobo Nation, Coach Eck here.
Coach Eck here. I love it. It's got the Midwestern thing going through it, even though I think he's from Georgia. First off, I love it. And Rick, when you sent that to me, you were like, I don't care if he loses every game. I love him. And that's how I feel. I mean, obviously we want him to win. 2, I get he's doing that on campus. Somebody should have sat him down at Frontier to do that. That would have been even better. I just like the enthusiasm, and it's me being a member of the press. He wants to talk to people. He's not weird, not looking up, not saying, gee, golly, gosh. Every time I think of Bronco, I think of the All About Mormons episode with South Park. So I'm not knocking on anybody's religion. It's your thing. You do it. But I hindsight's 2020 thought Bronco was really weird and a really weird hire, and look at it now. Rick, I want your thoughts on that video. I love it, man. I love him.
Yeah, I love the energy already getting, former players to come back, what opportunities lie ahead. I think the challenge, not just for Coach Eck, but any college coach right now, you're not really program building anymore. If you even look at Alabama, they're losing players from inside their own state to outside schools in the transfer portal. What coaches are being asked to now is team build year to year, right? Try to keep as much as they can. And how are they going to be able to do that going forward? Are they going to, take this NIL money, or if they get revenue sharing and just take that and try to split it amongst the 50 best players on the team so they can try to retain those 50? And, with the roster expanding to what it's going to be, find alternate ways, to get new guys in. So it's just a whole new team building every year now. And it's really hard to say you're building a program regardless of what school you're at. So that's the challenge for Coach Eck, is how can he use the resources and the short amount of time, to disperse those resources for the most talent. And right now it seems like he's retaining talent, and also bringing in some recruits that he had from Idaho, and then hopefully bringing in some transfers that we're not even aware of yet. But as we know, the challenge is just winning, and winning will be what brings the crowds in Albuquerque. Nothing else. Even if they build a brand new shiny stadium, I think that shine would wear off after a year. I think regardless of what the stadium is, they need a winner 2 or 3 years in a row, and that would get people back in the stands.
I think you're right on that. We're going to be joined by Ned James here in a bit. I wanted to get some other topics, even though it's not pertaining to UNM. I don't understand this. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports tweeted out that the NCAA board votes to appeal the Diego Pavia court ruling, but also grants a waiver for junior college players in a similar position as Pavia, paving the way for extension of the careers of hundreds of former junior college players. That's great for them. I give Diego Pavia credit. He says, "Don't thank me, thank God." I wonder if he thanked God when he broke into a facility and took a piss on the field. What would Jesus do? Lastly, the best thing I saw over the weekend, Lane Kiffin, who I love, tweeted out, "Way to keep us on the edge of our seats, committee. Riveting." And I like Joel Klatt, and Joel Klatt's one of the other few YouTube channels I love. Clapped back at Lane Kiffin. If your team played half as well as your tweet, you would likely be in. I thought that was obviously the best moment of the college football playoff. I was so excited, and I thought the atmospheres at the 4 stadiums were great, but it is insane that Indiana, after they looked like rat shit for 58 minutes, only lost by 10, and that was the smallest margin. Rick, before I give Ned James a call, and Ned, I'll go to you. I just wanted your thoughts on the college football playoff.
Not really any, competitive games. SMU was just over, within the first 10 minutes. Also, I'm just looking forward to hopefully some better games going forward. I wanted your guys' thoughts really though on our in-conference team, Boise, and the spread against Penn State, I think, is at over 10, maybe 11 points. And if you think that's justified.
At 11.5. Ed, I'll give you my thoughts after that. Ed, I want your thoughts on the college football playoff because you had been texting me about it.
You know what? That's Lane Kiffin's remark. And then, people saying that SMU didn't belong there. Indiana overwhelmed by Notre Dame. Tennessee overwhelmed by Ohio State. So, Clemson made a game of it for a while, but Texas pretty much took it to them 38-24. None of the scores were really close. So I think Rick's right about that. And I don't think there's any surprises. And I think Lane Kiffin, a little bit of a needle there. And there was a couple more needles there, too, that some of these teams that they thought Alabama was very upset they didn't get in. But they're not, I think it was Eric Moulton that said that Alabama's not the Alabama that they once were. And that was just a year ago. So there's going to be some people carping about teams that shouldn't, they didn't think SMU belonged there. Penn State pretty much took it to them. So Indiana had it. You mentioned them, Ryan, earlier in the year that Indiana was playing well. I started keeping more of an eye on them. They led the nation in offense, I think, and Notre Dame just overwhelmed them. That 98-yard touchdown run broke their back, really never recovered from it. I don't think there was any surprises. But round 2, Georgia without Carson Beck, what are they going to do? I don't know if he's going to play or not. It doesn't look like he is. That arm is not going to recover in 2 weeks. So there's going to be some second round. But back to your point, Rick, about that 12-point spread. I think it's 11 or 12 now. Is it 11, Ryan?
It's 11.5. It opened up at 11.5. I haven't seen the line jump since the games. I think it's warranted, but Boise State is in a familiar spot, and I'm doing the nostalgic, and history repeats itself. They've won a Fiesta Bowl 3 times. They probably won maybe arguably the greatest college football game ever played when they upset Oklahoma in 2006 or January 1st, 2007. I think it's a very, very, very dangerous spot for Penn State. But it also paves the way for people saying James Franklin can't win the big one. I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I think Drew Allar's a pretty good quarterback. They've got the Carter kid, Abdul Carter, I think it is. LeVar Arrington, Micah Parsons. They've worn that number 11 at Penn State. He is a force to be reckoned with. I think it's I don't understand how these runner-up. I saw a tweet today. These conference the two teams that ended up being the conference runner-ups get Arizona State and Boise State. It's the weirdest thing to me. Now in hindsight, look at it. Before I give Ned James a call, we got to get out of here. I got to give him a call, but I still think the committee got it right. And let's not act like it was supposed to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's probably bumps. I thought the NBA playoffs last year were horrendous. Let's not act like we've seen good wild card games. It took about 32 years for us to actually, 23 for the NFL to actually have a competitive game, a memorable game in the Super Bowl. And it took Boomer Esiason and Joe Montana to play each other in Miami. In Super Bowl 23. You can talk about the Blunder Bowl in Super Bowl 5 when the Baltimore Colts beat the Cowboys. There was a defensive end for the. No, I'm not talking shit.
No, I know who it is. It's Bob Lilly. Bob Lilly threw his helmet like 50 yards down the field.
Yeah, but there was a Colts defensive lineman that said NFL Films he never wore the ring from that game because it was such a bad game. So let's not act like the NBA hasn't sucked, the MLB hasn't sucked. The NHL is usually pretty good, but it has sucked. The NFL, I wasn't too thrilled with the NCAA tournament last year. It wasn't as memorable. You're going to get that. I mean, I know it's right here, right now. What have you done for me lately? It took the CFP, I think, about 8 or 9 years to have a good 4 games. They were all blowouts. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. We're going to take a quick commercial break. This is the Pit Press Live. We'll be joined by Ned James coming up. Looking forward to talking to him. As always, we'll be right back.
Thanks, Ray.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the show. Ed, I did something today called exercise, and my back is killing me.
Hey,
So,
man. What did you do?
I walked because I'm
Right.
a fat.
Good for you.
It's once again the PC version. I'm not as skinny as I used to be. I'm a fat piece of shit. All right, go go into the phone line now. I need to get a sponsor for the phone line, and I almost said something there that I shouldn't have, so I'm not going to. It would have been a bad joke. All right, go into the phone line, and very, very happy to have this gentleman on, as we always do. He's a former quarterback for your New Mexico Lobos, and he's a part of the Lobo Radio Network, the University of New Mexico. That's what I meant to say. His name is Ned James. Ned, how was your weekend? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Happy holidays. I'm enjoying the holidays. Listening to a little Phyllis Hyman, Disco Soul. Ed Nunez, he'll know that. He'll probably let you borrow some of his bell bottoms he's got in his closet for some
The
disco.
platforms.
A little
The
Simon doing it
platform
to me in
shoes,
my doing it to me.
That brings back memories. And
Yeah,
Ryan's
man.
looking at us like, what the heck?
No, once again, my parents had me late, and you know what song I heard the other day in the car on the radio was it was the Bee Gees, which I know is popular, but I was singing it, and it was not more than not. Oh man, it's gonna shadow
Man,
dancing.
you gotta get some
Yeah,
shadow
yeah,
dancing.
yeah.
Man.
That was
Go ahead.
You gotta
actually
get some
Andy
Earth, Wind, and
Gibb.
Fire. You gotta get
That
some
was
real
Andy Gibb.
disco.
Yeah.
Definitely not Disco Duck. That's my ears burned. Yeah, Ed, Ned, you have to remember I love pop. I might be going on 38, but I love pop culture in this country, so I might be a little bit more versed than you think. But hey, I like a lot of Motown. I don't know if that counts for anything. That's what my dad loved. That's what I was raised on. But speaking, well, I guess I'll segue. That's not a good segue because then I won't ask you about the Lions. But starting with football, Rick Thompson joined us at the beginning of the show, and we were talking about the new offensive coordinator. And then as on the Lobo football page, they were announcing more of the coaches. I don't know anything about these guys. I'd have to do some research to have that quick to ask the straight question. You've seen some of the Lobo players say, hey, hold up, maybe I'm coming back to UNM. Ned, I want your thoughts on that.
Well, you just never know. I mean, it's still up to Jason Eck who he wants to have back. I mean, we got NIL deals. We've got, there's lots of players out there. There's going to be lots of players in the portal. There's going to be lots of players come this spring. So we're going to have to, put it on pause a little bit. I know guys are, getting excited because we got a new coach and new coordinators and new everything. But, you have to really kind of wait and see how this coach is going to recruit. Where is he going to get these good players from? But the big question is who's going to be the QB? Who's going to be the quarterback? That's going to be the most anticipated question. I mean, who's going to operate on offense? So you can kind of mix and match and kind of put some pieces around them together, but you got to get the quarterback kind of sort of right. And there's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks out there. I mean, Devin Dampier's little. I mean, he had a tremendous season. I thought what Jason Beck did with him was really good. But welcome to the Big 12 now, boys. Let's see, if this magic works at that level where the windows are going to be a lot tighter. The hits are going to be from a lot bigger guys, and it's going to be a little bit faster. So, it'll be interesting to see who we can get in here. Devin was phenomenal. Devin was phenomenal, both running and passing. I felt. Thought it could be a little bit better passing efficiently, but they did some things schematically for the first time that a lot of people didn't really know what they were going to do, and they really didn't put a whole lot on him in the passing game. So I'm curious to see how they handle that with the new quarterback and with the new offense. Jason Eck runs the RPO style system. I mean, he wants to run the ball. He's the next offensive lineman. Different from Bronco, who was a defensive guy who primarily understood, to protect the ball and kind of want to run the ball and shorten the game up and that kind of stuff. So it'd be a little different. It'd be interesting to see how Jason Eck goes about his business when it comes to offense and defense. Because one thing you have to remember, and people lose sight of this, and I tell people this all the time, even though Bronco was a defensive coach, much like Bob Davie and Danny Gonzalez. But it doesn't matter if Jason Eck's an offensive guy. Jason Eck is the offensive coordinator. Jason Eck is the defensive coordinator. Jason Eck is the special teams coordinator. He's responsible for all of it. So, it doesn't matter if you're an offensive or defensive guy. You're responsible for all of it. And you got to have players. And you're going to have to pay guys out of the portal. That's just the way it is to get good players. That's just the lay of the landscape. And there's no disclosure. So we don't know what kind of deals are being made, how they're brokering these deals, and so on and so forth. But, we'll be able to get a chance to take a peek at some of the talent. We'll see how, if there's, if we can get eyes on, some of the practices or what have you, if there's going to be some open stuff for us to kind of get an idea of, just philosophically what guys want to do. I really loved when Brian Vincent was here because philosophically, I only needed to talk to him one time, and I kind of, he broke it down to me, coaches speak. I understood what he was saying. He said, hey, this is exactly what we're going to do. And he essentially stuck to it, and they were productive offense. So, it's always nice when you have guys who are a little more cooperative. The last group of guys weren't so much. They were initially with me, but then after a while, it kind of got a little hostile. But that's something that, some guys are just a little bit more closed off and guarded. And that's where the last staff was, and we'll have to wait and see with this staff.
Well, Ned, from somebody who was a print guy a million years ago, I already like Jason X attitude as opposed to Bronco. That's just a personal thing. It's not a X's and O's thing. I'll let them handle that because, as I always joke, I just like losing money on football. But that's not here nor there because I know you make fun of me for that. My quick question to you is, if you watched the college football playoff, the 4 games, what were your thoughts? And we had big boys playing big boys, and none of it was close. Just your thoughts.
Right. Well, just quickly thinking about watching the games, I thought it was just interesting. All the favorites won. They're the home teams, and they won. And a lot of people were upset about the fact that they didn't believe that some of the teams that really got beat pretty bad should have been in there. But people are going to complain. It doesn't matter what. People will find things to complain about. But I thought it was interesting. All the games were interesting to me. The next round will be even more interesting because I expect a few more upsets this time because they get a long break in between the games, and also the games are all played on neutral sites. So this will be a little bit more interesting than the guys having the home field advantage in that first round. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been great.
I actually appreciate that answer. I will say this though. I mean, I was still intrigued, and then I just enjoyed the atmosphere of those 4 home cathedrals of college football. Switching gears to the NFL, I'm going to start with your main man Lamar Jackson. Kind of got over the hurdle with the Steelers and played very well. The Ravens, I think secondary is a little bit suspect. They give up a lot of passing yards, but they made some plays. And the Chiefs survived those 2 games. But I wanted your thoughts on Lamar Jackson and what they've done to put the Baltimore Ravens, in prime position and maybe a playoff run. And I know I'm going a little bit long-winded here, but how efficient Lamar Jackson has been as a passer.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is one of the most interesting creatures to ever walk through the NFL. The NFL, it doesn't take a backseat to anybody. I mean, it's always exciting. There's lots of stories. Most of the games go as expected this past week, and I thought most of the games went as expected. But with Lamar Jackson, one of the things that's interesting is this guy's a 2-time MVP, and yet he's not been to a Super Bowl yet. I mean, it's not enough that he hadn't won one, but he hadn't even been to one. So a lot of people are kind of surprised that he's been able to win these 2 MVPs and headed for another one possibly because of the nature of his style of play, and he's progressively, and most players will progressively get better, and the anticipation of him getting hurt because he runs so much is what people kind of have looked to criticize him with a little bit, but he's winning games, and he's winning big games, and they had a rough start of the season. They picked up a little momentum, but it's it's the NFL. It's every on any given Sunday. You could lose, and then all of a sudden he's back to the old Lamar, and everybody's talking bad about him because if you don't win the big one or even get to the big one, there's always going to be doubt about your performances.
Ned, Ed, any football questions? Anything?
Yeah, I've got a few for him. Ned, you mentioned about Lamar Jackson. There's also a revitalization of Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. He's actually had a pretty decent season after almost being given up for dead there in Denver. Sean Payton didn't want him around. They ate that contract there, and he's actually played pretty well. And they lost to Baltimore the other day. But I wanted to ask you, your conversation, our conversation with you last week about Baker Mayfield. You said the games pretty much went the way they want, the way they're supposed to. But Tampa Bay, beating Dallas all of a sudden coming to life. Now, I'm not a Cooper Rush. He's a backup. He's going to be the backup. And when Dak comes back, he goes back right to the bench. Played pretty well, though, last night. And I thought their defensive line dominated. I thought Parsons, they had to account for him. The secondary, Jordan Lewis, made an unbelievable play. I thought that was a touchdown. I couldn't believe he came up with that interception. Just talk a little bit about that game because Tampa Bay, they're tied now with Atlanta. Penix had a pretty good game for Atlanta. You love to spin the guys that can spin. I always think about when you say that. But talk a little bit about Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay last night.
Yeah, everybody knows I kind of like Baker. I think Baker's tough. I think he's smart, and I think he really works hard at the game. He can really spin it. I think he's got a strong arm. But everybody laughs at me when I say this. It's not just you guys that are laughing at me, but I'm talking about other journalists in our world in Albuquerque laugh at me when I make the statement. And this is a subjective statement, but yet a lot of people disagree with it. I believe Mike McCarthy is the second best coach in the NFL, arguably the second best coach in the NFL. I think Jerry Jones is probably the greatest owner in the NFL, even though I disagree with some of his issues on social justice. I do believe he's one of the greatest owners. And I like Mike Zimmer as a defensive coordinator. So the Dallas thing to me is not surprising. It doesn't surprise me when Dallas wins. I think that Dallas, has had some, misfortune with the quarterback getting hurt and some other guys getting hurt. And, they have their same knucklehead issues that every team in the NFL has with players talking too much and saying stupid stuff and putting their foot in their mouths on some occasions. But for the most part, that's a good team that Tampa Bay lost to in Dallas. And but people like to beat up on the Cowboys when they're not playing well. And despite CeeDee Lamb just trying to tough out this shoulder issue that he has, they're schematically, McCarthy's a tough guy. He knows what he's doing, and he's done it well, and he's done it well for a long time at a high level. So it was just one of those games where you're playing Dallas, and you think it's going to be a pushover, and it's not going to be a pushover. And it's like life in the NFL. It's tough to win. Unfortunately for Baker and those guys, they were trying to, capture the NFC South, and it's tough sledding in the NFL. There's no layups. Every week you're going to have to bring your A game, or guys are going to make plays. That's what guys get paid a lot of bucks to do in the NFL. So you got to be ready. And I think from a management standpoint, they know what they're doing. It's not like in New York where there's some teenagers calling the shots in New York with the Jets. They're pretty organized in Dallas. They don't have to worry about Madden and EA Sports. And it's funny. Ryan and I were texting about the issue in New York with the Jets and Woody Johnson, and the fact that they go off of Madden ratings. With how they determine whether players should be supported or not supported, or cut or given contracts to, and he lets his teenage sons sit in on the meetings and staff meetings and that sort of stuff. And he's got a son named Brick Johnson. The kid was born on third base. He thinks he hit a triple because he's got the name Brick Johnson. He thinks he's calling the shots, and he's in there criticizing players and whatnot. You don't have those problems at places like Dallas, and I could tell stories. I mean, I won't say I'm on the air, but I was in New Orleans with Tom Benson's granddaughter. And, I could tell you some stories at the hotel, and, me being put in a position with my job on the line, because executives couldn't, go and talk to her. And I had to go, I had to get promised that I would be taken care of if I went in and did some things. But it's just those kind of things that happen all the time with these organizations. You just never know, if you're going to get, an organization where, the coaches are allowed to do their job. And I think in the case of Dallas and Tampa Bay, I just think Dallas just, can really play with the best of them on any given Sunday. I think they're well organized. I think McCarthy is just one of the best coaches, and people will laugh at me. And I've had a lot of people look side eye at me because when the records are bad, when you have a 3-5 or a 3-6 record, people look sideways at the coach and think, hey, the coach is a bum, but they don't realize that, there's a lot that goes into it, and guys get hurt. And, you want to see how resilient a coach is when things are down. I mean, everybody can coach when you're winning, but let's see how coaches coach when you got your backs up against the wall and you're fighting for your survival. So, and I think that's where Dallas is. I mean, you see the character of the organization and the team when they're playing games and they really don't have a shot at the playoffs, and they're able to beat playoff teams like Tampa Bay, and Dallas has got a couple games coming up that are going to be a test. Because they're going to be playing really good teams. I think they're playing Philadelphia here pretty soon. And it'll be interesting to see how – and Washington. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see how they finish up. And it's tough when you got, a team when you're not getting into the playoffs to finish the season because guys are trying to protect their careers. And so we'll see how good the coaching is and how these teams finish up, both of them,
Well,
Tampa and Dallas.
I just wanted to interject, Ed, and let Ned know you're looking at you're speaking to a 2-time Madden champion at a video game store or GameStop, Coors and Paseo. So I'm probably more qualified to run the Jets than Brick than Brick Johnson. But I love what you said about him, though. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's amazing, and JJ used to just die laughing when I told him this. It's not uncommon. I mean, I would have buddies call me and say, "Hey, Ned, Steve McNair needs to do this. I've played him on Madden, and this is what I use him to do on Madden." And these are guys that I really respect that played college football with me. These are grown men who call me about playing a video game and how I should coach and how they realize that the reason why we're not winning games is because we just need to do it like how they do it on the Madden football game, and we would start winning. It's the darndest thing you've ever. And I never played video games, so I'm not a video games guy. But to hear grown guys that you play that you really respected, and they talk about a video game and the reality of working and coaching in an NFL game, it was amazing to me. I was like, is this guy crazy? Is he going through a midlife crisis talking about a video game? And does he realize that I'm actually teaching and coaching a sport that they pay me for? And they have no shame. Madden players have no shame whatsoever in telling you how to win a game against an opponent that they've played on that video game.
Ned, you're kidding me, brother. Come on, man. You're kidding me. You got
It's the darndest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's.
I am not.
No.
And JJ, I remember JJ Buck just dying laughing when I first met him, and I would say, because he's a video gamer, and I was like, JJ, I don't understand the whole video game thing. And these guys that play Madden, these grown men that play Madden that are older, and he was just like, I said, yeah, they would call me when I was coaching in the NFL and tell me strategies that they used in the Madden game that we should probably try attempt to use in a real game. And I thought they were joking at first, but these guys are dead serious. These gamers are dead serious.
That's so funny.
It's the wildest thing.
All right, Ned, let me push back a little bit on what you said about McCarthy. Now, a couple games ago looked like, supposedly Belichick's coming in, Deion Sanders, blah, blah, blah. He's probably earned an extension with last night. Now, he's won 12 games 3 years in a row, and I think people forget that with the unrealistic expectations in Dallas. They're supposed to be we them boys, and I'm a fan since 70. They haven't gone to a Super Bowl or been to an NFC championship in 28 years now. Now, I'm going to push back about Jerry Jones. You say he's a great owner now. Does he make billions for the Cowboys in the league and the revenue sharing? Yes. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Anybody in that general manager position that has the record that he does of no NFC championships in 28 years, would he have a job? Now, I think sometimes now McCarthy, a lot of people, when he hired McCarthy, I said to myself, that's probably the best Dallas we can hope for as a fan. It's not a puppet like Wade Phillips or Garrett. He's won a Super Bowl. I was pretty hopeful then. But as far as some of the other things he's done, people are mad about the money he gave Dak, and that's market. You can get mad all they want to, right? But as far as an owner, I think, again, a brilliant businessman. And so, a lot of people don't even want to give him that because they hate Dallas and everything about Dallas. They don't even want to say that. But as far as the general manager, I think he's been lacking. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're right. I mean, it's your opinion. I mean, we can all have those opinions when people lose playoff games and you're not getting into the championship game and you're not getting to the Super Bowl and that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, and I think a lot of people are right. But I guess I just have an affinity for a guy who's actually put on a helmet, played college football like he has, is not afraid to stand in front of the mic. I don't see any other owners doing that. I don't see any other owners owning up to the actual fact that, yeah, I don't care if you have a general manager. The owner is picking the players because he's paying them. I mean, you may have a general manager picking them, and you can say Bill Polian, who's a drunk, and some of these other guys, Ron Wolf, these guys who are general managers that I don't understand why they're getting in the Hall of Fame, being a general manager. That it's those guys who are responsible for these rosters, and they're the reasons why these teams are winning. I kind of disagree because it's the owners who essentially have to write the checks. And so, yeah, okay, this guy's picking them with the coach, or maybe the coach is not really necessarily picking them, and he's totally responsible for the championships, the general manager. But Jerry Jones is the one unique guy that's put himself in a position and has played the game, in my opinion. So he kind of understands, and he tells you point blank, I know. And I believe him. I think he does know. And I think he has every right to choose the players he wants and the GM and the coaches he wants. And the buck stops with him. And he stands in front of a mic and he owns it every week. I mean, he may point fingers. He may, get on guys. But maybe more, coaches need to get on players and point fingers when teams lose like Jerry does. A lot of people don't do that. And so I give him a lot of credit for doing that. And, like I said, he's not one of my favorite people, but I think as far as owners go, he's my favorite owner.
Interesting. All right.
Ned, anything, Ed, anything else for, gosh darn it, did it again. Ed, anything else for Ned?
Ned, no, man, but I'll call you later. I still can't believe grown men were calling you and saying how to use Steve Mickey. I won't get over that, Ned. That's hilarious. That is funny. You can't
believe it. How do you like picking up the phone and wanting to talk about old times and these guys are talking about some silly kids video game?
And brothers that know football, dudes that played. Dudes that know.
Yeah, dudes that play. I got a guy, and I'll tell you about it. His son is playing with Jalen House. They're both in the Clippers G League, so he's watching on TV. He was an All-American defensive back in junior college. And, you guys know Elijah because he played at UNLV and he played at Oklahoma with Austin Reeves. He and Jalen, his dad's giving me a hard time because he says Jalen House keeps hogging the ball. I was like, oh, yeah, that's Jalen House. Then he's playing with Jalen. But this guy was one of the guys who called me about the Madden game. I'm like, dude, you were an All-American, dude. He said, Ned, I'm just telling you, I played online. I played with people all around the world. I'm telling you, guys need to run this defense. I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
All right, final question.
So there you go.
Final question. We could talk NFL all day. I don't want to keep Ben waiting, but who do you like tonight? Packers, Saints. Saints are going with Spencer Rattler from the South Carolina.
I like Spencer Rattler.
Why? Well, I mean, I did
like
too.
Spencer.
I do too, but I want to hear your reasoning.
Well, I mean, I just thought he was a dynamic player at Oklahoma before, Caleb Williams came. And Caleb Williams is a good player, and it's tough sometimes guys get pushed aside. He was going to be a top, 10 pick in the draft before Caleb Williams showed up, and then he had to transfer to South Carolina. So he has some skills, and I thought, they kind of reached with playing Jake Haener, but I'd like to see him play. The problem is these young guys, when they got to play in inclement weather, they kind of curl up and, they're going up to Green Bay to play. So it's going to be rough on them. But I'm looking forward to seeing. I want Spencer Rattler to play well. I know Mickey Loomis. I know all those guys down there in New Orleans, Mike Boss and the scouts and stuff. So I kind of pull for them a little bit because I know a lot of the people in the organization. But it's going to be tough sledding because Green Bay's, they're trying to make a run for it and for the playoffs. And so it'll be tough, but I'm hoping for a good game, but I still think Green Bay will probably squeeze it out in the end.
The way they're going to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, and they did that in Seattle. Yeah. They just ran it down their throat. Is that what you expect tonight?
Yeah, he's a guy that doesn't get enough credit as being a great running back. Is that Josh Jacobs in Green Bay? I mean, he was great in Oakland. I mean, not Oakland, but Las Vegas, the Raiders. And I just really think he's one of the top tier running backs that doesn't get a lot of say from a lot of people. And I think that's in the end, he always brings his lunch pail, man. He always comes ready to work. And so I really think it's going to be a tough sledding for the Saints tonight on Monday Night Football.
Ned, it's always a pleasure. We'll bug you next Monday, keeping you at least through the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Mondays at 4:30. I cannot thank you enough. Merry Christmas, and then I'll wish you a Happy New Year next year. But thank you very much.
Yeah, happy holidays to you guys and all your families, too. Take care.
Thanks, Ned.
Appreciate it. Ned James there. Got to produce the show at the same time. Sorry about that, Ed. Man, I love talking to him. He's always the best. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll keep the football talk going with one Ben Wysong, former UNM linebacker, Lobo back. And I need to have him tell me the years again because I keep forgetting him. I feel like I'm such a piece of shit not doing that. But anyway, this is the Pit Press Live. Ryan Tamori, Ed Nunez, Rick was able to join us for a little bit. We'll be back with Ben Wysong continuing Football Monday. Appreciate it.
cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Let me fix that. There we go. There we go. Okay, that's my best Eric Hartman impression. All right. Hey, before we get to Ben, Ed, Ned's the best. What did you take away? I know it's something different all the time, and then I'll ask Ben what he thought, but what did you think of that?
Well, the thing that made me laugh the most was people calling a guy that coaches at the pro level and saying that you should use this defense that I used at Madden. That had me rolling. That really did. And, his opinion about Jerry Jones, I disagree about the owner part and him being the general manager. I think it's been a detriment to Dallas. But you know what? When Ned talks football, I pretty much kind of listen and hear what he says. McCarthy is a much better coach than people think. I had another one of my really good friends from Highland thought he should be fired. And, my friend played football, knows football. But I think Ned, he's right. McCarthy, he's won 12 games 3 years in a row, was a Super Bowl winner. So he can definitely coach. I think the other thing that I took away from that, Dallas didn't quit. They didn't quit on him. They're not going anywhere. Yeah, they're we them boys. I get all the jokes. I hear them all the time. But they could have quit last night. I thought Tampa Bay was going to win before the game. I thought they needed it more than Dallas did. Dallas was eliminated. So I think I took that away and listened to him about McCarthy. He probably got his extension. I told my friend that wanted him fired after they won last night, probably got his extension for next year. So I think he's a much better coach than maybe I gave him credit for. So and just hearing him talk, Ned's got he is so funny. And you know what? You said that he's opinionated. He is. And that's what I love about him. He's going to tell you what he thinks. And if you don't like it, tough, and he'll tell you again. He does have his very strong opinions, but I got to tell you one thing. They're pretty well thought out. He's a very intelligent man. I get a lot out of talking to him all the time.
Two things about Ned. One, I do like him a lot. I really enjoy talking to him. Two, and I'm glad he's an ally because he is opinionated. He helps out a lot. As far as the Mike McCarthy thing goes, you see the stuff behind me, Ed. I think Mike McCarthy, I've made fun of him, but think about what they did last night. It does speak to the character. That's a big win. Everybody was on Tampa, and I thought, man, it's such a bad spot for Tampa. Prime time in Dallas. I know they've only won one game this year. They're kind of healthy on the defensive side of the ball. Deron Bland, Micah turned into, Micah Parsons shows up during the regular season, but that defensive line, it was a force to be reckoned with, and I think it's one of those positions that can ultimately change a game.
Real quick, they were with that DeMarcus Lawrence,
right,
showing the linebacker. They were missing Kendricks, the linebacker, Trayvon Diggs, the cornerback, Dak Prescott on offense, Zach Martin, the all-pro guard. So I got to give them credit, man. I do, And I was thinking, and me and my friend keep saying, whether it goes the high draft pick, there'll probably be between 15 and 20, right? Normally where they draft. So
no, that's for the New York Football Giants, who look like they completely don't care. All right, transition into more Lobo football talk. I love that. It makes things so easy for me. Now I know the years you played at UNM, Ben, and I'm so sorry. 2003 to 2006, a linebacker, Lobo back for the University of New Mexico, Mr. Ben Wysong. Ben, I love talking to you, but I feel like you're probably going to say, I don't know how the hell I followed Ned James.
No, Ned is always a trip to listen to. And, just like Ed pointed out, I mean, he's got his opinions, but I mean, the guy knows ball. I mean, he's been around for a while, so he knows this stuff. And I'm always intrigued to hear what he's got to say. So, yeah, it's like, how can you follow that guy, man?
I'm sorry to do that to you, but we're happy to have you on and keeping you rolling on Mondays. I wanted to start here. You've seen the news about, I think, the offensive coordinator. I don't know much about these coaches. That's something we're going to have to learn probably for Friday, educate ourselves. But your thoughts on seeing some of the players maybe jumping out of the portal and returning to UNM?
Yeah, I think it's great. The one that I saw today that I thought was pretty cool was seeing Isaiah Silamone. He's, coming back, and, he was the same class as Luke. So, he's a Lobo through and through, man. So it's good to see him. And yeah, he was a pivotal part of that offense last year. I mean, when you needed those, 2-3 yards, put that Rhino heavy package in. I mean, you follow him, and so it was cool to see him coming back. Hopefully we'll get a couple more. I talked to Evan a little bit the other day, and I guess they had a lot of the recruits in town over the weekend. I think they were all out of Topgolf. So, and Evan said that, yeah, he's loving the guys. So they're already gelling, together well. So that's good to hear and see.
Have you, I mean, we got your thoughts on Jason Eck last week. Have you talked to anybody else, maybe former alumni, and maybe how they feel about the hire? Once again, I like his enthusiasm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it. From some of the guys that I've talked to, I think they're really excited about. I mean, the guy at least seems like he's got a personality to him, and it's a guy that you can talk to, and seems like he's kind of like a player's coach in a sense, where he can get these guys fired up in a locker room, and he's not quite that hardcore authoritative figure, maybe like a Nick Saban, or kind of afraid to talk to the guy. But yeah, no, from what I've heard so far is that everyone's been super positive with this hire, and just everything that I've seen with him, he seems like he'd be a fun guy to play for. So I'm excited for the future of this team. I think these guys, if they can get some of these guys back in the portal, and I mean, hit the portal with some of the guys from other schools and put this thing together, I think next year could be, a good fresh start for these guys.
I don't, I think they get a pass with UCLA and Michigan. I think it's more of what's in conference that I care about.
Sure.
I don't know. I took the Idaho team that played very well against Oregon, and Oregon, is in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Ed, do you have any questions for Ben?
Ben, I do. As a Lobo, I'm sad to see Luke go, but happy for his opportunity. He's got to take it. They were mentioning, Ned said this too, that he thinks he has the ability to maybe play on Sunday, and for Ned to say that says a lot, because Ned, as we mentioned, he knows football, and so we wish him all the luck, but breaks my heart because I'm a Lobo, and would like to see him here, but. Best of luck to him out there in Arizona. But we had Fernando Lobo on last week, and linking about Coach Eck again. He's a positive guy, and Coach Mendenhall just may have been an introvert. I don't know. I just got to tell you that I've talked to a billion coaches, on the high school level and the college level at Western, and he's one of the strangest guys I've ever seen. As far as when you ask him a question, remember his job was to sell the program, so they had to take that into consideration as well. Now, all due respect to Eddie Nunez, I liked him a lot. I did. But if you're thinking about a guy that, again, Danny sold it, maybe not, well enough to stay here, but he was a good guy. Community guys from here, one of us. And Bronco was just, man, I don't know. I told Ryan, I watched those interviews with Robert Portnoy, those Mendenhall minutes, and he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Yep. And Rob's the voice of the Lobos, man. All due respect to Robert. I saw no connection at all. I saw him looking off in the distance, and I felt bad for Rob, because Rob does a great job. He really does.
Yeah, he does. Rob is awesome. Yeah.
Professional through and through. So anyway, I think now Ryan said it was a weird hire. I get it. It maybe it seemed to be, but at that time they were lauded for that hire. They were lauded. People said, hey, the guy hasn't coached. He wanted BYU. He wanted Virginia. He was here before. Players spoke very highly of him. So Anyway, I think Coach Eck is a great hire. He says
Agreed.
all the right things. It doesn't win you football games, right? All that talking, you gotta perform. But just hearing him, it's like, man, I haven't met him yet. I can't wait to meet him, and see what he's going to do. But my question is this: we talked to Fernando Lobo, and it doesn't make sense. They're going to have to work on that stadium for sure at some point.
Yeah,
and they've got to do things to get people to the stadium, because even if he wins, there's no guarantee. Bob Davie was 9-4, and they didn't move the attendance meter, man. They averaged 22,000 out there. That was 8 years ago. And so I don't know that there's a lot of apathetic fans here in Albuquerque. Let's face it, man. I'm a diehard because I'm a diehard. There's a few of us, that are diehards no matter what they do. But what kind of challenge is it for Coach Eck here? I mean, if he wins, he's gone, right? People say he's gone. What needs to be done to change that culture, man? Once and for all. And it's not just on Lovo. Eddie Nunez was here. Paul Krebs was here. John Bridges was here. Koenig was here. There's other people that came before him. We're asking a lot of him. What do you think has to be done?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. And I think that, the first answer that comes to mind, I think it comes down to the state level at this point, because everything else, it seems like that's been done below that. Like you just mentioned, with all the different ADs and coaches that we've had here, it's still the same. And, when you've gone to like other states, like I remember when I lived in Ohio, and I mean, Texas goes without saying, but, you hear about these other states. I mean, heck, look at Utah. You got the state of Utah where, they got their legislature. They're investing back into the universities. And, to hear that we had like a $6 billion surplus here in New Mexico, but, you would think, as a fan, like, hey, maybe we can invest back into the universities a little bit, to get these upgrades, maybe upgrade the UNM Stadium a little bit, or, even down at NMSU, wherever.
They need it too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it feels up to me. I mean, I would try to upgrade, both D1s and then do all the Division II guys, Western, Eastern, and, get Highlands in there. But what I do like with Coach Eck right now is that I think he's playing his cards right in the sense that he's getting the fans excited. And, because as we all know here, being here from New Mexico, it's, we're a certain culture down here. Like, it's, the fans are very, very passionate. Where it's almost to the point where either you got a ton of passion for Lobo sports, or you hate them. It's like a love-hate thing. It's almost to me kind of like the Dallas Cowboys in some ways, how I've always kind of compared it to. But what I do like with Coach Eck is that, like I said, he's getting the fans excited. He appears, at least he has a personality, to Coach Mendenhall. I mean, and I like the fact too that he brought out the point that he plans on getting these guys out and, engaging with the community more, which I think is going to be great. Because I look back to my time, with Coach Long. I mean, I remember we were going down to the children's hospital all the time. We were volunteering at schools to go play with the kids, during their PE hours and stuff like that. So, a little bit goes a long way in that regard. So, with Coach Eck, I think he's doing it right. And I think he's doing it smart. The other thing I was thinking about too, and I don't know if I brought it up a while back, like if you look back to the times with Coach Long when we were all there, how many times were we on ESPN or even TV in general? Maybe once, twice a year, where now, it's not even just a UNM, it's just college football now where, I mean, heck, you can watch damn near any college team on TV. So, I think that has a big factor in it now as far as like, hey, why would I go pay, a boatload of money to go to a game when I can just watch it here at my house for free, and I can just go buy a 12-pack from the store and just order in some beat-ups? I don't know. So I think maybe that has
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just the accessibility of it now, because I mean, I've heard drives too with UNM Stadium, where, like, for example, like if I had to buy, bring the kids, it's $20 a ticket for those guys, and it doesn't matter their age, when I'm having to pay $20+ for a 2-year-old just to get into a game when I know he's not going to watch it. He's just going to run around, up and down the ramp or down in the grass. So I think it's just a culmination of a lot of that stuff, that I think is kind of hurting the crowd, because yeah, like you said, I mean, there's no reason at all whatsoever. There shouldn't be at least 25, 30,000 at that stadium when we're playing the number 18, 20 ranked team in the nation with bowl implications on the line. Like if you would have done that back in 2005, 6, that thing is sold out.
You wouldn't be able to walk on the concourse.
Oh yeah, I remember our senior year when we played Utah on a Thursday night. That thing was almost damn near sold out. When they had Eric Weddle, and again, bowl implications on the line. So, it's just a different world I think we just live in now. And I think it's just a matter of how do we figure out how to navigate through that?
I think one of the things that no, excuse me, Ryan, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even at Western, right? We see that the roster change. I'm already looking at the women's basketball team. I'll give you a quick example. The women's basketball coach was hired in July. The coach bolted. That's none of her team, none of her players,
right?
None of them, and none of them. About 2 of them may be back next year. So it's a constant. I think one of the things that I noticed too, when you played here, you played with Rocky, and so your commitment was to Coach Long. You saw him. You saw him in the locker room. You saw him lifting weights, man. You saw him.
Yeah.
You saw in the community. Lobo was in the community. So
exactly,
you were going to stay. You were going to stay for that. Now, look, the athletes are getting paid. I understand that. I get it. But that loyalty to that guy that recruited you, it's not there. Or the woman that recruited you to play, women's sports, it's not there. Because someone might say, like with Donovan Dent, the Lobos will be lucky to keep that guy, man. They'll be lucky. Now, I hope he's a baller. Yeah, I hope he stays. I hope he. I love the guy. I'm a Lobo, man. I don't want him to leave. It's the reality. Same thing with Coach Pitino. Now, Coach Pitino can talk all he wants. Now, great guy, by the way. A total opposite of Coach Mendenhall. He'll answer every question, look you in the face, and make no excuses. Gotta love the guy. Gotta love him.
Yeah, but he's engaging. Exactly.
Oh man, I love the guy. I mean, yeah. I mean, he when they lost to the Aggies. I mean, I know me. I hate losing.
Oh yeah.
I would be like surly, like no, I don't know, I'd want to get out of there. I hate to lose. And the guy answered every question and looked you in the face and said, hey, it's our fault. He didn't blame anybody else. He gave credit to the Aggies. But let's be honest, Ben. Let's be honest, man. I hate to say this. It's true, though. If that guy can leave, he's out of here quick. He's out. We have to be honest. If the Lobos have a good basketball season here, and I'm not saying this because I want him to leave. I'd like him to stay here another 5 years. But with losing those teams in the conference with Boise State, San Diego State, it weakens the conference, man. And it does.
It sure does.
No disrespect to UTEP, UC Davis, Grand Canyon. They're not Boise State or San Diego State in basketball, or even Utah State has had some good years too. So he's out too, man, and that's just the nature of it. The game now. The loyalty factor. I'm coming to be a Lobo. I'm proud to be a Lobo.
Right.
Well, that's gone, man, and that's the way you guys were proud to play for Coach Long and represent Lobo football. And look at the dogs you had, man. I mean, I know. Yeah, and Ian Clark always talks about it. Man, Ian's my guy, right? You guys had, oh my goodness, look at the players you had. They would run through walls to win, and you did. You had that culture there, and it was behind one man, right? One guy, and some other assistants too. And then Coach Mendenhall was part of that. And people said that Landrick Brody, Curtis Flake swore by that dude, man. They did. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's a tough climb up for Coach Eck. It is here.
It really is. Yeah.
I'm rooting hard for that guy, and even Ryan saying he was excited made me excited because Ryan takes a lot to excite Ryan, man. If Ryan liked the hire, maybe he like it even more. And with all the respect in the world.
I am excited when I hit my bet. When I win my bet, I was I was absolutely excited when the Falcons scored 2 touchdowns yesterday defensively. Because
the 2 pick sixes, right?
Well, yeah,
you're setting that bar low, dude. Come on.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make this. I'm not a comedian, but I'm trying to make it funny. I give a shit, but I don't give a shit anymore. It's the weirdest thing, I mean, the last time I think I kind of cheered, it's been, and this is an exaggeration. I mean, I always joke with my buddies and then Jacob Neff, like when we're winning a bet, we're joking around. I legitimately, when Pete Alonso hit that 3-run home run in the bottom of the 9th against the Brewers, that's when I lost it. I thought it was insanity. So I don't know. I don't ever show emotion anymore. It's just joking.
I would like to have seen that. If you losing that, I would like to have seen that. I really would.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the Devils winning the Cup in 2003, the Giants in 2007. There was liquor flowing that year, and then the Giants in February of 2012, the liquor was flowing that year. Oh, it was. I remember taking shots of that Kraken rum in my kitchen with another Giants fan who I haven't seen in years. Anyway, now that's not here nor there. And I know you got to jump off. I was going to ask Ben his thoughts on the college football.
Take care, man.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy.
All right. Before you answer anything about Ohio State, your thoughts on the CFP?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild that, of course, you had all the home teams win, in the inaugural playoff. That's a little interesting. And, most of those games really weren't even that close. I think maybe the Texas Clemson was, good for a little bit, and then eventually Texas pulled away. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this is year one. I mean, I know people, I've been seeing people, kind of complaining about like, hey, they need to revamp this and that. It's like, hey, it's year one. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And hey, we can figure it out later, Let's just see how this thing plays out. I mean, gosh, for all I know, friggin' Boise could just play the best football of their lives these next couple of weeks and win it all. I don't know. You know what I mean? And, you have the rematch with Ohio State and Oregon. So it's
in the Rose Bowl.
And the Rose Bowl. Exactly. So it's, so yeah, you're kind of going back a little bit to like I guess if you want to call it the old school ways of football, where it's the Big Ten and Pac-10. Sorry, it'll always be the Pac-10 to me, but
right.
Anyway,
I feel
that's
the same
another
way.
story. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you really think about it though, too, I mean, you still have a lot of like your traditional blue blood still alive in this thing, for maybe the exception of Boise and Arizona State. So, I mean, me personally, I think right now, I think it's anybody's game, or anybody's playoff to win.
I would agree with that. I think I think it's wide open. I mean, I'm looking at the field again, and I just went back to ESPN, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why not Penn State? Why not Boise State? Why not Texas? Why not Arizona State? Because they play punch you in the mouth football with that running back.
They hit you in the freaking mouth. That running back is Scottaboo. He's the shit, man. Everyone's playing pretty good right now. I don't see like a clear favorite. I mean, I know people might be, argue Oregon, because they're undefeated, but I mean, shit, they haven't played football now in 2 weeks, and like that long of a layoff can kind of suck, in my opinion. I think
that's what I thought. For that's what I was gonna say. No, for all the guys on that have had the extensive bye weeks. I mean, I don't know how well that play. That's what I'm scared for. I don't know. I think that Boise State tradition of figuring it out, and then they're in the Fiesta Bowl, which I was saying earlier, that's where all their magic has happened. They're a 3-time Fiesta Bowl champion. I think they're like so amped to be there. And but again, I'm probably one of the few people that I think Drew Aller is a good quarterback. I think they've played really well. And then again, I'm going to name all the teams. I can see Ohio State winning. I can see Oregon winning. I can see Georgia winning. I can see Notre Dame winning it. I think the joke from the weekend was Ryan Day figured, hey, let me throw to my 2 NFL wide receivers. Two questions for you. I mean, I know all the atmospheres were great, but you've been to Ohio Stadium. What did you think of the atmosphere and how Will Howard and that offense played and how that defense played?
Man, I thought it was a great atmosphere in general. I mean, because you saw the feed on, X or Formula One's Twitter, hey, Tennessee's taking over the shoe. And I mean, yeah, there was a good amount of fans there, but I would say it was like an 80-20 Ohio State still. That south end zone was full of red, and even on the home side. So, but then again, I mean, it's cool to see that, though, when you can get an SEC crowd in there like that. And, I mean, I think they said this was the first time that Ohio State's ever played a game in December at the Shoes. So, I mean, that in itself is pretty cool. But, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with that atmosphere. You got game day there. I mean, you had McAfee on the sidelines with A.J. Hawk. You heard them chanting him up during the game. I mean, it's, it doesn't get much better than that. And, as far as Ohio State's game plan, I mean, I thought it was great. Hey, we're going to throw it up and, we're going to let Jeremiah Smith and, Ibuka do their thing. And, Travion Henderson, man, that guy freaking played his ass off this game. He had a couple of good runs. So that's the thing with Oregon. It's like with that layoff, it's, Ohio State, I don't think they suffered any injuries that I saw this game. So, it could be a pretty balanced game.
I was listening to somebody, I found this channel on Samsung TV Plus called Sports Grid or something. I don't know what it is. They're out of New York and I watch it, and it's not like comedic, and it's a lot about betting, and it's like something that you'd see on SNL where it's like everything's so serious and it's like this coach does a shitty job. Well, I had him on because at least I like listening to the lot. Like it, to me, I was listening to it Saturday morning and yesterday morning, and just because I don't know, I thought it was a little bit better than what I get on ESPN. But somebody was saying how bad Oregon's defense played, and I thought maybe that might favor Ohio State in this football game. And the fact that, again, they're going to the road, I don't know. I think Ryan Day knows what is in front of him, and I think
I agreed.
I know you've got that roots there, but I still think his record against everybody else, and you can make the comment, oh, he started at third base, blah, blah, blah. You still have to coach and you still have to win. I don't know. I don't know if Oregon's defense is going to be suspect because they have given up some points. I don't know what you know about them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, from what I've just kind of seen and just kind of read about with those guys, their secondaries, I guess, maybe they're a weak spot. And even like on the last time when we were out there at Eugene, I mean, Ohio State exposed them a little bit. They were kind of beating them at their own game as far as trying to throw. I think Jeremiah Smith had a good game that game as well. So, yeah, I think especially too with this game being at a neutral field compared to playing at Eugene, which that place is nuts. I think that's going to be a big factor because I've never been to the Rose Bowl, but just from people that I've talked to that have been there, I mean, it's not as loud. I mean, it's your kind of your old school bowl stadium, so it doesn't really, trap the noise. But, then again, though, it's also the Rose Bowl. So, and the good thing I'd like to with Ohio State is that, I mean, their fans, they travel very, very well. I think they probably travel the best in the nation, in my opinion. Because I've heard, the nickname, you got Rose Bowl is, the Horseshoe West, stuff like that. So, but I think it's going to be a good game, though. I mean, hey, a lot's happened since, what was that? October 12th was the last time they played. So I'm excited for a good game. I'm expecting one. So I'm sure, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, that guy's tough, man. I mean, he knows how to spread it around and get it to his playmakers. So, you know how it is. It's just the chess match at this point.
No, again, I'm looking forward to it. And you've got the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 versus the Big 10.
The Big 16.
Yeah, the Big 16. Yeah, the big. Yeah. When I think of Big 10 football, I think of Rutgers. But and finally, anything take away from the NFL that you liked that you didn't like this weekend?
Well, I'm like when you guys were talking about with Coach McCarthy. I don't know. I'm a McCarthy fan. I think he's a great coach. I mean, I'm a Packer fan, so he did good with us at Green Bay. He got us the Super Bowl. Was it back in 11? I think it was when it was, or 12. But I mean, as far as the NFL goes, I mean, right now, still Kansas City, I guess, is the team to beat.
Air quotes.
I know it might piss off some people, but the rest are doing whatever they can to keep those guys in there.
I already liked you, Ben, but I'm glad you said you weren't a Cowboy fan.
No.
Tonight's matchup, you got. I asked Ned about it. Packers defense has played pretty well. I think last Sunday night they were without a couple guys. What is it? Xavier McKinney was my guy with the Giants, and then they didn't even bother to re-sign him. People are talking about Saquon. They messed up with him because he's been a ball hawk. But the way that Josh Jacobs ran the ball Sunday night against the Seahawks, I mean, I would expect the same thing tonight. It's cold. It's snowy up in Green Bay. I would imagine they try to do the same thing, and the Saints are depleted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be a cool game. I mean, if anything, it definitely favors Green Bay in the sense, I mean, hey, run the ball. I mean, kind of similar, like, we're talking about the Ohio State Tennessee game. When you got a 25-degree kickoff and, cold is cold. I don't care who you are. Like I made that post earlier about, why the whole taking their shirt off before the game and warming up. Like, it's so dumb. But the Packers, I mean, especially with their tight end, Tucker Kraft, man, that guy's playing well. That guy's a weapon for them. And so I think he's, definitely utilized and he can be a game changer for those guys, besides your typical just run past stuff.
Right. When you talk about the cold, I've been in Boise. It was pretty cold. I've been in Boston when it was -3. I was there the night before walking around downtown with my cousins. It was terrible.
Yeah.
The day I left, I think it was -9. I left Logan. It was terrible. And I've been in New Jersey, New York. I've been in New York City and Manhattan. When you get the winds off it's terrible. So I've been in cold weather. I don't know why they were trying. Yeah, no, thank you. I don't know why they were trying to tough guy him. I didn't get it. It's not like Tennessee doesn't get cold.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw something that they were like maybe 5 degrees warmer. So it's not that much of an advantage. I don't care. Your cold is cold. So whether you're layered up, which I mean, me personally, I mean, the only real warm thing you got on you from a football standpoint is your helmet and your shoulder pads. Everything else you're just kind of exposed to it, you know.
And you're wearing a jacket, and at least you've got the heaters on the side. I'll leave you on this question. What's the coldest game you played in?
Oh gosh. Coldest. You know what? Probably the bowl game, the first New Mexico Bowl, my senior year. Because that's when we had those 2 back-to-back snowstorms and Albuquerque was shut down for like a week. That was pretty cool just because once the sun went down, it got pretty cold.
The San Jose State game, right?
Yeah, San Jose State.
I remember being in the stands. It was cold. It was miserable.
Yeah, that one was pretty cold. That's the one that comes. I mean, there might have been colder, but yeah, that's the one that sticks out, right away.
Ben, I appreciate you joining us on a Monday again. I'll bug you next week if you can join us. Thank you and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Thank you guys very much. Yeah, looking forward to coming back on, talk some more Louisville football.
Appreciate it. Hopefully there'll be some at least content next week because it was king content and then it just kind of died all of a sudden.
I know. Well, and that's the thing too. I've noticed they're starting to announce some of their coaches on their X. So hopefully by next time we'll have a better idea of who's on the staff and who's, I guess, coming and going, as far as the portal. So
no, that would be incredibly helpful. I hope that's the case next week. Ben, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much, everybody. That's Ben Wysong, Lobo back linebacker 2003 to 2006. I'm glad I've got that down. I'll remember that. Ben, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one. Merry Christmas.
That was Ben Wysong. Appreciate him. As I was trying to do last week, my pick of the night, I didn't type it out. I like the Packers to cover night. I think it's probably fluctuated between 13.5, 14.5. I don't know how the Saints win this game. I really don't. Like Ned was saying, he likes Spencer Rattler, but really, really just think they will run the hell out of the ball. Jordan Love is an efficient quarterback. Ben mentioned Tyler Kraft. I like that. Rick, what's your podcast there in California? It's this one. It's on the Pit Press. Check it out. Anywhere you can find a podcast or go to our website at thepitpressnm.com. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram. Here, let me change this really quick. I don't think this will help, but maybe you can see it. There you go, at the Pit Press NM. Instagram, X. I think we're on Facebook. I don't check that as much. Eric handles that. A lot of people watching tonight. Really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great holiday. Special thanks to Ned James. I want to get off and watch this football game. And then plus I got some money on some college basketball, so I want to watch that. Special thanks to Ned James, Ben Wysong. That's our Monday afternoon quarterbacking. Ed Nunez, Rick Thompson. We won't do a show Wednesday, obviously. Trying to keep the Pit Press Live rolling Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 o'clock. I'm trying to look into getting a radio dial. That's not here nor there. No show Wednesday, obviously, with Christmas. We'll be back Friday. If you were looking for the Fernando Lovo interview, go to our YouTube page. It's on there. It's from last Friday, which was December, can't do the math, 22nd, 20th. So you can go there. I hope everybody has a safe Monday night, safe Christmas Eve, safe Christmas. Don't do anything I would do, which is something stupid. But a Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Honda Days, Toyota-thon. What's that guy's name? Oh, wait, hold on. Before I sign off, got to take a pop shot at somebody, as I always do. Because he said to stop watching our show. I don't know what it was. But anyway, great way to end the show. Merry Christmas. Talk to you Friday. Appreciate everybody watching on the artist formerly known as Twitter, YouTube. On behalf of Eric Malton, Rick Thompson, Ed Nunez, Nick Nunez, Jacob Neff, my name's Ryan Tamori. This was the Pit Press Live. Everybody have a good one.